Alright guys, welcome to another honey hole angling fly tying video. I'm on the vise today and Zach is sitting next to me. Behind me. And we're going to be tying a popper. Very easy, it's bass season right now. This is going to be great if you guys go out to your local river or lake and throw a frog popper. So we're going to get right into it. The first thing I do on this fly is I start my thread right behind where my popper head is going to sit. And the reason I do that is because I'm going to take this off and I'm going to put it on after I tie the rear end. So I'm going to take that off and I'm going to take my thread.
Why do you do it like that? Why don't just leave the head on and tie everything up to it?
Because I don't like to glue it on until the end, and it slides around until you glue it on.
I see, okay.
And so for me, that makes it easier. One thing that you can do too, now's the time if you want to like color in the popper head. Like if you wanted to put a red face on it, because once you get it on the hook, it's going to be really hard to color. So you can go ahead and take your red marker if you wanted to do this and color that in.
You can get pretty creative and fancy with coloring these things too, couldn't you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I have an airbrush. I'm not going to do that in this video. We'll probably show that in some other fly tying videos, how to airbrush and all that. But this, you know, it doesn't need to be anything crazy. The popper going off the sound that the fly makes more than anything on these. And so, you know, do it how you want to do it.
So one thing I personally, the way I look at it when it comes to coloring popper heads is the fish really only see the top or the bottom and the sides. The top coloring is more for you to build your confidence. If you think the fly looks prettier, you're gonna fish it better naturally, subconsciously. So make it as pretty as you want it. But just remember, it's the belly and the sides that they see the most.
So the next thing I'm doing is I'm gonna tie in the tail that I'm using for this hopper. And there's a lot of different ways to tie this. Like you can buy like frog legs looking material. You can use a rabbit strip. People put bucktail off the back. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So if you don't have these exact materials, you can sub just about anything. This is a super simple fly. I'm tying in this rabbit about the length of the hook. So I'm going to fold my hair so I can tie it in. And then what I'm going to do is hold it in place while I get 2 to 3 wraps.
Do you have any issues of the rabbit fouling on the hook?
I don't. Generally. I don't think I'm going that long. Like this is still pretty short. To get it to foul, it takes a huge, on one this short, it takes a huge effort to get it to foul, if you can see there. If you go longer, then yes. And there are ways that you can put like tie and mono on the back and stuff to help keep your fly from fouling. I'm also not as much of a perfectionist when it comes to tying as Zach.
Hey.
So my flies are more dirty and simple, and not every single specific detail is thought out.
You tie fly shop flies. I tie Instagram flies. Big difference there.
There is a difference there. So the next thing that I'm going to do is there's this bullfrog dubbing that I really like from Fly Tyer's Dungeon. We'll put it up on the screen. And I'm going to tie this in with a dubbing loop. So let's see if I can do this with as much room as I have.
For those of you who have never checked out Fly Tyer's Dungeon, it's a fantastic website with some affordable fly tying materials that what's the word I'm looking for? Imitate some other very popular materials out there that might be a little more expensive. So if you're tying on a budget, Fly Tyer's Dungeon's a good place to go.
Well, even they make some materials that I can't find anywhere else, like this bullfrog dubbing.
Yeah, this dubbing is, oh my gosh, this dubbing is beautiful.
It's got rubber, you guys will see it in a second, it's got rubber legs and all kinds of fun stuff in it. So, I'm gonna pull out some dubbing.
What kind of thread are you using?
This is gel spun. And honestly, I grabbed it because it was what was on my bobbin and I didn't want to change. So
you could probably use all the way down to 70 on this if you wanted to, couldn't you?
Yeah. Now the only thing is when you're spreading this, I like to spin this dubbing loop pretty tight.
Any particular reason?
More security. I don't know. And I really brush out the hairs pretty aggressively.
You know, I'm going to ask you a question about this dubbing loop that you asked me before, and I didn't have a good answer for it. How do you know when you're done spinning that loop? My answer was, you just know.
You just
feel
know,
it.
yeah. I don't have a good answer. I like to make sure it's pretty tight. Now I'm gonna take this loon tool now that I have. What is going on here? And it is really caught onto something.
Oh yeah, rubber legs.
Rubber legs. So this dubbing has like rubber legs and junk in it, and I'm gonna just take this little wire brush that Loon makes, and I'm just gonna start brushing this stuff out. And I'm being pretty aggressive, and that's why I like to use the heavy thread, because I wound this up pretty tight. Man, it really likes that one rubber leg right there.
If there's any firearm enthusiasts watching this, that dubbing brush you just used, I want you to pause the video and look real close and tell us in the comments what it looks like and what you might be able to use as a double purpose that you might already have at home.
So I'm just gonna wrap this forward, and I'm gonna go all the way to where I stopped my thread, which is where I had found that was the good spot for my popper head. And I'm gonna butt as close up to it as I can. All right, and I'll tie it off right there. And I'm gonna wrap back up against that right there. And I'm gonna go ahead and trim. Now that I'm here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this tool again, and I'm gonna just brush this out some more. And you guys can see on this dubbing, there's rubber legs, it's just really juicy, bassy.
That color,
dubbing.
I can't get over the color. It's gorgeous.
Fluff that out a little bit. All right. Now we're gonna take that. Oh, before we put the popper head on, what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to cover my hook with red. And then what I'm gonna do, and hopefully you guys can see this, is I'm gonna wrap back one more time, but as I go, I'm gonna put big thread bumps.
Why do you do that?
The reason I do this is it creates more surface area, so that way when you actually super glue and you slide your popper head on, there's more surface area for the popper head to be glued to.
And the bumps almost act like a gripper, kind
Yeah.
of, right? To keep it from...
So I put a bump in the front, I'm gonna put a bump in the middle right here, and then I'm gonna move back, and I'll put one back here.
I haven't tied many poppers. I've tied a good amount, but I've never done that before. I've always just covered the shank and thread. I'm gonna start doing this. That's pretty cool.
Go forward again, then I'll finish up my bump at the front one more time. You can kind of see bump, bump, bump. I don't know if you guys on video can. Hopefully you can. I'm gonna whip finish right behind the eyes. Cut my thread. So the next step, we're gonna take our super glue, and a little bit goes a long way. I like a gel super glue. I feel like it holds better. And I'm just gonna put a little bit on here. All I'm doing is using this super glue head to spread this out and penetrate it into the threads. Put a little bit more. Spread that out some more. Just like that. Take my popper head, and I'm gonna slide it on. And I like to move slowly because you're gonna push some of the super glue off. So I feel like if you go slow, you capture some more of that super glue.
Do these popper heads come with the hole pre-pierced?
These ones do. Now these ones are sold, I got these at Orvis, and they are pre-holed, and they also come with the hooks. So that makes it pretty easy to tie these up.
So there's some popper heads that I've found that don't come with the hole pre-made, and the best way to do it is get a piece of wire or a big needle or something and heat it up and guide it through that foam to at least make a somewhat of a tunnel to guide that hook through.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take another marker, and this is just for flair. I'm just going to put dots all over this, and you can do this before you put it on the hook. But I'm just going to take this and dot it up. If you guys have an airbrush, you could airbrush it. Obviously, you'd want to airbrush it before it went on the fly, but just put dots all over it. Give it some texture and some flair, make it look a little bit more froggy. Just like that. Next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna tie some eyes on. And I like the craft store googly eyes, just because they're cheap. You can get like 100 for $1, and this is, the really nice eyes are really expensive. And so this is a nice way to add some eyes. And this is just for, really just for looks, because I don't think the fish on a popper like this is gonna see the eyes. Careful, push down a little bit, try not to get super glue on your hands. Just like that, and then we're gonna do the other side.
Where would you throw this fly? I mean, when you get to the river and or the lake or the pond or wherever, what's the first spot you're going to put this in the water? Or what are you looking for when you're fishing this fly?
Looking for logs, structure, sticks, lily pads, just typical bass environment. And I'm going to throw it, and you might lose it in a tree. You might lose it up against the bank. But the good thing is these are easy to tie, so you can lose a couple and not feel real bad about it. And I have one more step left. I'm going to tie in some rubber legs, and these are just some random rubber legs that I have a bin of random rubber legs, so anytime I tie a fly that needs rubber legs, I just grab a color that I like. And I have this tool right here. This makes it to where you can pull legs through popper bodies. Now this is just a needle attached to like a little knob that makes it easy to hold. But if you just had a needle, like a sewing needle, then you can do the same exact thing. You don't have to have this tool, just a sewing needle, something with a hole in the end, so that way you can put your rubber legs through. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to push this through the body. Hopefully this is centered. I can't see because I'm behind the camera. I'm going to take my rubber legs. Let me move this so you guys can see. So that's what I did right there. I'm going to take my two rubber legs and I'm going to put it through the end. Just like that, just put a little bit through. Then I'm gonna pull this through the other side. And you'll see that it pulls my rubber legs through. I can even those up. Then I pull them back and trim right behind the hook. Now I have two, and if they're a little uneven, you can actually move these. But now I have two rubber legs on my fly, and this is a finished popper.
Looks good, man.
Thanks, dude.
Tie me some.
Super easy, super effective. If you guys need some materials, we'll link everything in the description below. And unlike Zach, I tied this without breaking thread. So we'll see you guys on the next video.
We don't need to talk about that, Landon.